Now let's talk what others won't be talking about. Listen to us now, this mind's been filled in thoughtful round. We've got to let it out, we've got to let it go. Just wanna let you know you're welcome.
Hey. Welcome to Lesbeopen. This right here is a space where I share intuitive observations. Point blank period is where I share some intuitive observations and just insights, things that just be coming through from spirit, from myself, from my whatever the fuck I'm observing at the moment. In the future, I'll bring in some conversations, but stay tuned for that. Intuitive conversations. I guess like intuitive observations. I've been doing this thing now. Um, with all the thumbnails that I've been making for the podcast videos where I've been labeling intuitive observations. Well, and I don't know, I guess that's a thing I got now. I guess it's kind of like a series in a way. I don't know, quote unquote series. So yeah, this is an episode, part of intuitive observations. And I can't wait to bring in intuitive conversations. It just be, I'm a little antisocial, just a little bit. I don't get out much. I don't be talking to people a lot. But that's okay. We're gonna incorporate that a little bit in the future. Okay. For now, it's just me, my handy dandy new mic. I'm loving this shit. Well, they having a ball outside. I don't know who's sure than having a ball, but they're having a ball. But yeah, so on today's episode, just I guess to give a brief, not even overview, but basically, I'm just talking about an insight I had on kind of the whole new generation versus old generation, old head versus the youngins, um, kind of theme, I guess, theme. Whatever, I just kind of put my input on that, and whatever the fuck comes through. And yeah, that's the episode for today. So without further ado, I'm gonna slide that in here. So I'm in the midst of having, I guess, like an aha moment, or I think just connecting certain things in life, because it always comes from tinkering around with these damn plants. Um, so I'll start by explaining how I even got on this thought process, right? So, tinkering around, doing my little daily routine, tinkering around with my plants, right? And one of the plants here that I feel like I've had the most issues with is the basil, right? And I think, I mean, herbs are the most sometimes tedious plants to deal with, just because they require a lot of attention. I feel, it's what's the word that I've heard? Temperamental. They can be a little temperamental, right? You gotta kind of a little moody. They change up. What they need changes. Sometimes you think you got them in the right conditions, and then one day they start getting losing color, and you're like, what the fuck? This was working for like the past 2 months. What's going on now? Type of behavior. And am I speaking into this right? I think I am. I've got a new mic, by the way. Finally, I got put on to these little lapel mics. But yeah, let's see if this resolves some of the audio issues I be having all the fucking time. But yeah, so with the basil, this one's the one that's it's kind of like dried out. You know, um, some time ago I was getting ready to repot them, but instead of repot them again, instead of put them into a new pot of soil, I was getting ready to put it into a jar of water instead. So getting ready to to put it into, a big jar of water. And so, in order to make that process a little easier, I decided to dry it out a little bit, right? Not, give it as much water as I've been giving it the past days. And so I stopped giving it water for a little bit of time, right? Until I felt like, okay, this is good enough to like be able to get most of the dirt off and put it in the water. And so I did, right? Dried it out a bit, and I dried it out for what I see felt was sufficient, but not to the point where it's like the stem completely turned brown, you know. So yeah, I remember, putting it in the water, and I slowly started to see a decline. Right? Excuse me, or not excuse me. Human bodily functions, it be like that sometimes. But I started to notice the stem slowly started getting brown, from the bottom of the roots all the way up. And it was little by little and it was getting harder, and I'm like, I don't understand what's going on now. I just put it in the fucking water. And the reason I even decided to put it in the water is because I had experimented a bit, right? And I had cut off some of the stems and put those in a separate jar of water and watched how those grew. And they were just fucking thriving, flourishing in just straight water. The leaves were, very vibrant green. The stem was green. The roots were all white. It was looking good. And so I'm like, you know what? Let me put the rest of the plant, because I noticed the one in the soil was it wasn't looking as bright. Not that it was looking bad, but it wasn't looking as, bright. And I'm like, you know what? Let me switch it over to the water now and see how that goes. Right. So yeah, fast forward, right? Going back to where I was at, put it in the water, slowly declining, right? The leaves aren't as good, and I ended up putting all of them together, all of the different basil stems, right? So the ones I had in that separate little jar, I put them in there, and I noticed the roots started to go brown. And I'm like, just like the ones, the larger ones that were in the soil, and I'm like, I wonder why it's doing that. And then I noticed all of them started to brown, and I'm like, why? Okay, I don't understand. It's in the water. And I did notice it was this weird combination thing going on, right? It was like a combination of like good leaves and bad leaves. Like I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Just, bipolar, didn't know what I want to do. Um and so I kept trying to salvage this basil plant as much as possible. So I keep snipping off stems. Keep sniffing off stems and putting them in separate jars of water so they could grow their own roots, and leaving them in a separate jar just so I can try to, kind of revive that plant and make new plants out of those little stems that are still surviving. And, you know, um, so, you know, fast forward, here I am today, and I clipped off yet another stem, right? Put it in a separate jar of water so it could grow some more roots. And it got me thinking, I'm like, I've got so many little clip-ins off this basil plant here now growing in a separate jar, whole new roots and everything. And it was just so crazy to me. I'm like, these were little like, stems just off of the basil. At one point, like they weren't even there. These extra stems weren't even on the plant. And now look, it's created a whole entire, set of like new plants right here. And the observation, and it brought me to the correlation of like the family tree, and kind of made me, just think about the cycle of life. Um, just that cycle of death and birth. Um, the stem kind of to me symbolizing that ancestral line that we all have, right? And through the ancestral line, whoever was the very, very first of our, I mean, we have so many fucking ancestors. The further down a family tree you go, if anybody's ever mapped out their family tree, it just expands, because it's a lot of people that came before us, right? And that's how I'm looking at this stem, and I'm understanding the concept of the family tree now more than, not that I didn't, see the kind of the correlations, like, oh, family tree, yeah, but like really seeing it. Um, and just looking at that line, that lineage, and seeing that, as this plant is dying, there's been new stems that have been popping out, right? You know, and although it's like the tallest, it's the can you see it? Yeah, that's the very top. Look how like fucking healthy it looks at the top. It's crazy, but then you can see a little brown stem. It's just been crawling up, crawling up. But yeah, just looking at this long and just firm stem, and then seeing all the little baby growths that have come out of, there's still new babies popping out. There's still new babies popping out. And just kind of looking at the way our family structures are set up. We always have the matriarch or the patriarch, right? There's always that matriarch or patriarch, as we could see. There's always that big stem, the biggest part of the plant, the biggest trunk. And out of that one person can come out so many people, um, so many new children come birth, so many lives come out of just this, one person. And then the same was before them, right? And, it got me to thinking about how these new stems, they're now starting to, I'm now starting to clip them, put them in new jars of water, and they are now starting to finally, grow their roots and stuff as this one slowly dies off. And it made me think of, in order for the new generations to come, the old generations have to die, have to leave. Not, I'm not saying in a weird, like fucked up way, we must kill the old ones. No, I'm not saying that. But was it like out with the old and in with the new, and I'm not even saying what people, just in ways of being in society, right? Um, when you kind of look at the old ways and the new ways of things nowadays, and how the newer the generation, the more ideals it brings, and the more advancements that come with society, both good and bad, right? But in order for these, new stems to start taking up space and start growing strong themselves, it's almost as if the matriarch or the patriarch has to, you know, slowly transition their way out, slowly step off the throne, you know, um, to make way for the next generation to take residence, to take the lead. Makes me think of kind of the order of families, of clans, right? We always have that one person who's a matriarch or a patriarch. Maybe it's your great grandma, or and after they pass, it ends up being whoever's next up. We always know who it is, though. There's always going to be that one person that's connected to everybody. There's always one link in every generation, and even if that person in that generation maybe passed away, and then maybe their counterpart ends up being the next patriarch or the next matriarch, and then once they pass away, then pops down to the next generation. Everyone's, I think, family is a little different, but we can see how that plays out in real time, and not just on a societal level, but even in the interpersonal level. I feel that oftentimes many families don't think about that dynamic. I think a lot of times people in that head spot, right, in the matriarchal spot, the patriarchal spot, can feel threatened with the new ways of being of the young generations, right? Not wanting to assimilate, to understand, or what's the word? Like to intertwine maybe the new concepts that the new generations bring. And sometimes it can bring some conflict, right? It can bring a conflict of these two ways of being, these two different generations, or different generations. And it's one of those things where, or vice versa, the new generation doesn't want to have, respect for like the head of the family or whatever. They don't see, what value that the oldest generation, the older generations can bring to them, right? And when really and truly it's not a this or that, it's not a competition. It's about, and I keep feeling like I can't get the word, something it has to do with like intertwining though. But it's about it's about that. It's about the interconnection of those different energies, of those different ideals, not the picking and choosing of it. I think it's always important to anybody who's in a position of leading to have an open mind. Because if you don't have an open mind, you close yourself off to different ideas, to different ideas that can help you become a better leader. To lead means to be able to see from every position in the team, right? To lead properly, you have to be able to have many different perspectives. And how can you lead properly when you're looking at the younger people before that have come after you, that have come from you, as though they know nothing, as though they have nothing to bring to the table because they haven't been on this earth plane in this lifetime as long as you have, as though they have nothing to contribute, to the family dynamic, to the clan, right? When that's a closed-minded way of thinking, very narrow-minded, and more than anything, thinking like that, you're not leading your family properly when you're thinking like that. Got me thinking about generational curses. How can you expect to break a generational curse when you're not even sometimes open to seeing that there's a curse there to begin with? I don't know why the fuck that's random thought, but I guess it has to do, kind of with the whole generational thing going on right now in my mind. If we only look at things from a limited view, we're bound to lead ourselves into the same problems and lead others into the same problems over and over and over again. And I guess that's what the generational curses ties into. How can you sit here and you wonder, why does this keep happening in your family? And then when the younger ones come and try to present the problem to you, maybe with a different solution in mind outside of what you may have been able to think up, it's immediate defensiveness. And you're never gonna resolve the issues if you're not willing to see a different way of you know going about things. I believe the young mindset, the fresh mindset, the like that Aquarius energy, it we are in age of Aquarius right now. It brings a lot of advancements that people may be that are so used to that influence, that Capricorn influence, that old traditional ways of being kind of influence that had a hold on people. That energy had a hold on people for a long time. I think it may be Pluto or something that was a Capricorn for a long time, or something like that. I forgot. But I think people get very stuck, very much chained to that kind of energy. It can be very stifling. Capricorn energy has its benefits, but it can also be, or the Capricorn like energy, I'm talking about that sort of structure, order, tradition, government, control, rules, organization, um, traditional old ways of doing, being, methods, that, all of that. There's always space for that, but if left unchecked, it'll end up hurting you and the others and other people around you in the process. flipping it back to the side of that young mindset, right? Of the young generations, the new leaflings, right? New leaves in the bunch, new stems, the younger ones, the young bucks. With that energy, oftentimes comes like y'all ever you seen the Fool card in tarot. It's a very fearless energy that comes into the world, right? It's that energy, that careless, just free, um, fearless energy that's just walking around, not even, danger could be right there in front of them. And they just so do gung ho. I'm about to do this. I'm ready to do that. Take that step, make that leap. And they don't even see the hole that's right there in front of them and they end up falling in it, right? Due to not having that full sense of awareness, having that lack of fear, not which lack of fear is good to be fearless, but I think with anything in life, any kind of extreme can be a little not good. Anything that goes in extremes. But that's what I'm thinking about, like the Fool card energy when it comes to the young generations. Um, with the younger generations, I think one of the biggest things to look out for, to watch out for, is that ego. The ego is present with with both generations, and with older and younger generations. There's always that sense of ego that people struggle with, period. But even so, with the young geese generation in a clan, right? Because it's kind of this energy where it's like, I know everything. I can do whatever I want. I don't need any guidance. I don't need no help. I think a lot of us have been there. And, not to say it's not, I think it's great to kind of have, ooh, got my robe trying to untie, to have, that very much leading energy that, just, I don't even know what the word is, the gusto for life and everything, and just ready to tackle. But oftentimes, that younger generational energy can, in a way, and it's kind of funny because the older generations, the younger generation, I feel like sometimes do the same things to each other. Like that dismissal, like, oh, I don't need their help. I know everything. Or from the older generations, oh, dismiss them. They don't know anything. They're too young, right? It kind of comes out to play in both generations in different ways. But with the younger ones, it can oftentimes lead them into many, many problems in life due to having kind of like that big head. Um, Feeling as though kind of like that me mindset, me. I know everything. I got it. I. I think also that sense of like maybe a competitive energy, as though they're in competition with the older generations. Like, oh, I'm better than you. I'm younger than you. I could do this better than you did once before. And it's not about that though. And that's where, that's one of the problems, right? I think one of the main problems is being able to humble yourself, humble that ego, and be able to sit down and, well, use discernment. If you can even go to, whoever the elder is in your family, sit down and talk to them. Like, do you feel safe? Being able to bring your ideas and bring your viewpoints and bring your new ways of being. And that's something that the older generations have to foster, that sense of safety. The older generations have more responsibilities than someone of a younger generation because they've seen more, they've been through more, they've experienced more, right? But it's also up to the younger generations to, if there's that safe space, to be able to kind of, you know, the head down, bring that ego down, and give that humbleness, kind of, in a way, give yourself, give your, I'm not saying give your power away, but kind of be open to letting the older generation in, being vulnerable. That's what I'm trying to get at, right? Kind of humbling yourself, letting yourself be vulnerable enough to seek that advice, right? To be able to kind of sit at the table and share the ideas, right? And I really think that's the main thing for the younger generations. I think if you can if you can really implement that sense of humbleness, that'll solve a lot of your issues with being able to intermingle with the generations if they do their due diligence and make sure that they create a sense of safety, um, keep an open mind. They have a lot more responsibilities, right? But without that, kind of like when you don't have, in a way, if you're looking at like a pyramid, right? The stones on the bottom are the ones that were there first, and as we go up and build in the pyramid, you put more and more stones, so you get to the top, and it's balanced, right? But the thing is, if the stones on the bottom are weak, they're not strong enough, they don't have the enough, whatever it is that's made used to make those bricks. Oh Lord, I got the pimples. I be want to pop them. Oh Lord. But if the motherfucking if the stones aren't strong enough, the foundation will be weak, and then the pyramid's gonna crumble. So if the elders and the family don't have, a firm foundation within themselves, if they're not emotionally stable, if they're not, mentally stable, or at least, because as you get older, your mental kind of starts to fade a little bit. But enough awareness of, even that, like knowing, okay, maybe I'm saying before that even happens though, right? When they're still capable and able to, you know what I'm saying. So if they're not stable on the bottom, right, they're the ones supporting the rest of the family in a way, then the whole shit's just gonna fall. Then all of us gonna end up crumbling, right? All of us gonna end up with that unstable foundation. Nobody's gonna be able to stand firm in the fucking pyramid because you wasn't strong at the bottom. And it's kind of like, that whole thing where it's like if one person's messed up, if the matriarch of the family's got I'm about to show my panty. It's got X, Y, and Z problem. And they don't resolve it. They end up giving birth to more children, right? They have like 3 kids. And then they end up passing those same issues down to those kids. And then they have more kids. And then they have more kids. And here we are 4 generations down, still dealing with like the same, who knows, emotional issues or the same self-esteem issues because it keeps getting passed down. It keeps trickling down like a fucking infection until someone kind of stands up and says, okay, it's time to heal the infection. It's time to cut it off, cut it off at the source and heal that infection, right? um let's say it was like an infected foot and now the whole thing's getting gangrene. Now you got to cut it off and try to save the rest of the leg. I'm not saying cut off everybody in your family or anything, but if you got to do that, you got to do that. If people aren't supporting you or accepting you, if their presence in your life is just causing you turmoil every single time you fucking interact with them, then they got to go, honey. Or do what you will. Everybody has their own decision to make in life. But just kind of that concept of issues will continue and continue and continue to go through the bloodline until it gets resolved, because that's how strong the blood is. um I always say, blood is blood and family is who you make of it, right? Things along those lines. But blood, that's not to downplay blood, the power of it, of our blood ties with people. That does have power. It does. I'm not trying to downplay it at all. Um, but it isn't the same as a family. Is it not ideal? It would be ideal if, the people that we are tied to by blood can all be our family. But unfortunately it doesn't always work like that. You know, um, some people you just can't coexist with in a healthy manner. You just can't. Um, and with that, you just gotta gracefully be able to, let people be who they are and still continue to go about your life in a way that best suits you, that's best for your life, that's for your quality of life. That's what's most important. At the end of the day, we all come in here with our separate life paths. At the end of the day, the most important person is you. But I say all this to say though, or I think I've said a lot of things, not even all this to say, but just the main takeaway, I guess, respect each other, be open to each other, don't let age um, determine, you know, who a person is, let their or what a person is like, let their character show you, let them show you. Coexisting, that's just a word I keep hearing. But yeah, learn to listen to each other, to understand, um to bring respect more than anything. Really, respect is a big one. Respect, um healthy coexisting, and humbleness, especially as somebody of the younger generation. Humbleness. But yeah, the observations I got from tinkering around. All right, y'all. Yeah, I'm back. It was a minute. I know y'all saw the last video. It's been a I had to take a break. I did. I had to take a break. Got me a new little mic. Trying to revamp. I think I'm gonna make a new logo. We're gonna see. Um, but yeah, I'm feeling good. Um, I can't wait to start having some conversations though with people because I don't only want to talk about myself. Sometimes I want to talk about other people. As much as I don't like people, it's nice to bounce off with other people. But yeah, fuck with your girl. I'm on TikTok now. Um, I was convinced. I have fallen into the TikTok shit. But, I'm really trying not to go off and lose myself in, these social media apps just because it's so easy to do so. Be careful with that, y'all. Limit your screen time if you need to. Jay, you can find me now on what is it? Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker. Yeah. um, yeah, fuck with your girl. You know, thank you for tuning in and listening to me. I don't be ranting. I just be speaking off what's coming from the dome, from my heart, from my spirit. Um, yeah, I'm starting to feel a little excited for the things to come. But yeah, I'll see y'all next time.